What's up guys, Sal here. So it looks like the President of the United States started a trend just like Apple and everyone is following suit. The US government banned Huawei from working with American companies, resulting in uncertain future for the Chinese giant. Huawei got a relief though just a couple of days ago, as the ban has now been uplifted by the US government and Huawei can now resume their business as usual. But now it looks like Samsung and LG have gotten into a similar situation, but the difference here is that they have got into trouble not because of Donald Trump, but because of the dispute between Japan and South Korea. You see, effective starting July 4th, which is just a couple of days from now, Japan is planning to impose tough economic sanctions on South Korea. Japan will entail stricter restrictions on export of 3 items to South Korea. They are fluorinated polyamide, resist, and etching gas. These materials are needed to build smartphone displays and semiconductor chips. You see, Japan has a monopoly of these 3 materials. They produce about 90% of the world's fluorinated polyamide as well as 70% of the world's resist and high purity hydrogen fluoride, making it almost impossible for Samsung and LG to find an alternative. One thing to note here is that Japan is not totally blocking the export of these materials. They are making it harder for South Korea to buy these, which is still a big deal because now reports say that it will result in 90-day delay in shipments of the restricted materials, as now it will require for the exporters to seek permissions each time they want to ship to South Korea, which takes about 90 days, which could result in manufacturing disruptions as stock run dry as the companies await new shipments. With that being said, you might be wondering,
what the hell is going on?
Like why Japan is taking this action on South Korea? Well, to understand that, let's go back to 1910. From 1910 to 1945, Japan used to rule South Korea. Both of these countries restored diplomatic ties in 1965, and Japan says that the forced labor was settled back then. But recently, the Korean Supreme Court announced that the Japanese companies have to pay compensation to individual Korean victims of forced labor during Japan's ruling in South Korea back then. So in order to protest, Japan has taken these drastic measures because Japan argues that the matter of forced labor was settled in 1965 when the two countries restored diplomatic ties. It's a similar tactic of what the US did to China, yet they are different. The US almost destroyed companies like Huawei, but in this case, Samsung and LG are not in that big of a trouble, as Japan is just delaying and making it harder for them to import those materials. But still, it will result in manufacturing disruptions of smartphone displays and chips, which is a big deal for both Samsung and LG. And you never know, if the situation between Japan and South Korea gets worse, then Japan might totally ban the export of those materials, which will be a huge blow for Samsung and LG. I hope that doesn't happen, and I'm positive that this will be sorted out pretty quickly because Samsung accounts for 1/5 of South Korea's whole GDP, and they're basically nothing without Samsung and LG too. So obviously South Korea is gonna think about these companies' future than forced labor. So don't worry, this will be sorted out pretty quickly. Let me know what do you think about this down